Hello and welcome everyone to another one of my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, Gotham, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage videos. And yes, it's an all-in-one kind of video. Now I know a lot of viewers might not end up liking what I have to present in this video, both DC and Marvel fans alike, but I thought it would be a fun idea to do this. In my personal opinion, this kind of ranking will allow for real and accurate evaluation, and as long as we all do this, our favorite shows will keep getting better and keep coming back for more seasons. So I'd like to apologize in advance for not being a hippie for any particular show and for judging them all based on what they presented us with, and as a result, provide you with my own personal ranking of the 2016-2017 seasons of all these comic book based shows. Now considering this is going to be nothing but personal ranking and personal opinion, feel free to tell me what you thought of all these seasons of all these shows and what your ranking was for them in the comments down below. But more importantly, feel free as well not to try to change my taste or my personal opinion and expect me to comply out of being a nice YouTuber. Now it's definitely unfortunate here that I couldn't add Legion to the mix considering I'm still catching up on it. It is one of those shows that I left for the summer hiatus considering it wasn't one I would review. That's actually kind of ironic considering the first string of comic books I've ever read in my life and as a kid were X-Men comics. However, I only have enough memory to remember so many comic book characters, but just to throw in a quick opinion here, so far I'm on the 6th episode of the first season and Legion is pretty good. Now I didn't want to add any Vertigo imprint comics either, so no Lucifer and no iZombie, even though the second season of the former was really good. Trisha Helfer is one hell of an actress on Lucifer and she still got the sexy from back when she played number 6, aka Caprica on Battlestar Galactica. Like seriously, that woman doesn't age. But anyway, and before I get started, and as usual, I'd like to remind you that it is always much appreciated if you drop me a like if you end up liking the content of this video, and if you subscribe if you want to see more of my videos on all these shows and more. I would also like to remind you to click the bell-shaped icon underneath this video if you haven't already. That way you would get notified of my new videos as they come online. Now before I rank all these shows, let's talk favoritism first. While the first comic book I've ever read was X-Men related, my favorites have always been all about Batman, The Flash, Superman, and Spider-Man in that particular order. My favorite TV series out of all the ones I'm discussing here though happen to be The Flash followed by Arrow, then Gotham. Now regardless of the fact that these are my favorites, not all of them had satisfying recent seasons or ones deserving of being ranked above others, even if those others don't happen to be on top of my favorites list. So let's talk number 8. Now I've had major issues with the second season of Supergirl. It kinda started off awesome with the introduction of Superman, and for a whole couple of episodes it was extremely promising. Then Kent and Grant were taken out of the equation, which was okay as long as they introduced new characters like Maggie Sawyer, Snap Carr, and Mon-El. But for some reason the show decided to give Carr minimal screen time and to make Maggie Sawyer all about her relationship with Alex and rarely ever anything more. The entire season then went on to focus on relationships more than anything, to the point that there were episodes that felt like they were all about Maggie and Alex, or Win and Lyra, or both. So one episode after the other, it started feeling that the screen time allocated to Supergirl was shrinking and that the show was no more about the character it's named after. And that's exactly when I started getting completely turned off by this show. But don't get me wrong here, I don't mind the occasional romance on this or any other show, but it is the whole Olicity drama and lack of focus on anything but Oliver and Felicity that started taking away from the quality of Arrow. And it did seem that was happening to Supergirl on its second season. But besides all that, if I'm watching a show about Supergirl, I'm expecting to see more Supergirl than any other character on any given episode, or at least in the aggregate. The saddest part though is that Supergirl sorted out 2 horrible and extremely tough situations in 2 episodes by turning people against the villain using speeches that weren't even all that inspiring or well written. Instead, when it came to Kara, a lot of the focus once more went to her relationship with Mon-El. Gotta say though, Mon-El and Win always added a whole lot of funny to the season. Finally, and as far as villains go, Cadmus were pretty decent, the Daxamites represented in Queen Rhea were okay at the beginning, but then they turned out to be annoying. Terry Hatcher should just quit acting at this point in time. But moving on to number 7. Now I personally don't agree with the common opinion on Iron Fist. This show kinda got the short end of the stick with the critics. I will agree with them on one thing though. It was not the best of all 4 Marvel Netflix shows, but it still was pretty decent. The arc of the first season was good, the ending was pretty decent, and the acting was actually pretty great for some of the characters, and so was the writing for them. I did love the performances for the characters of Ward Meacham, Madame Gao, Claire Temple, and Colleen Wing, and loved their portrayals. roles. All the Easter eggs towards the rest of the Defenders team that we'll be seeing get together come November were really good as well. But moving on to number 6. The second season of Legends of Tomorrow made us forget all about the damage the first season did. It presented us with the perfect villainous team up. You could not go wrong with Merlin, Thawne, Dark, and Snart. And it was indeed pretty great. It had the right amount of funny coupled with the right amount of action and adventure, and it presented us with compelling villains. The introduction of the Justice Society on the second episode and the bringing back of their characters one after the other on various episodes was one other good move for the show. The ending of the season as well was extremely good and funny, considering how Arubo is not really all that resortish and was the choice of McRory. But moving on to number 5. Speaking of my favorite of all DC and Marvel shows, The Flash really irritated and annoyed me with that season finale. The third season of The Flash started off pretty decent, even though they could have extended the Flashpoint arc over a whole few episodes, but nonetheless, it had a decent start and was pretty intriguing for the most of it. Savitar was definitely a formidable villain, and his reveal as Barry's Time Remnant was pretty good and very reminiscent of the comic book arc with future Barry going back in time to kill his younger self. HR as a character was an interesting and great addition to the show. Tom Cavanagh does a great job in every role he plays on The Flash. He's like the show's wild card, as the actor manages to make it all better every time he's on screen. So far, so good, but then it all started with the fan outrage over Iris possibly dying, leading to some viewers ending up deprived of the element of surprise as they revealed early on she won't be going away. But as I just mentioned, that's just where it started. That was just followed by the worst of all twists, and one that everyone saw coming and I kept denying would happen, as they shoved the transmography tech in our faces. HR would replace Iris using set tech and die at the hands of Savitar. But that wasn't even the worst of all of it. You would have thought they'd take their time revealing the twist on the finale, rather than revealing it on the very first moment. You would as well have not expected that Savitar would die with a bullet shot by Iris. That was just bad and kind of almost ruined the entire season for me. Tom Felton was a very good choice for the role of Julian though, and that was a very good cliffhanger at the very end. But moving on to number 4. The first season of Luke Cage was the first of all these seasons to finish its run, considering it got to release its full season overnight on Netflix in September. It was pretty amazing to say the least. Coulter portrayed one hell of a role, and so did everyone on the show. It was to a very great extent done close to the comic books and was done well. The acting was solid, the storytelling was compelling, the Easter eggs kept you looking forward to more, and the ending was pretty perfect. The choice of the villains and the cast that portrayed them was great as well. I am definitely looking forward to watching and reviewing the Defenders come November. But moving on to number 3. So Gotham did one hell of a job, and as always it has been different. Gotham has always been amazing. It doesn't necessarily present us with the version of the story we expect to see on other shows, but rather an earlier version, the details of which we've never watched on screen before. Now the third season did fail to present us with a compelling first arc. The Mad Hatter got extremely irritating, way too fast. However, the reintroduction of Jerome's Joker did the trick of getting the show back on track. And from that point forward, it was all about making Gotham as great as it used to be, and as it is supposed to be. The Court of Owls, Jerome putting Selina Kyle on the road to becoming Catwoman, the Penguin, Nigma arc, the return of Fish Mooney, the Lee Tompkins injecting herself arc, the promise of Solomon Grundy, and the Batman Year 1 Easter egg at the very end were all just amazing. But moving on to number 2, I think I speak for everyone when I say that the 5th season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came as a surprise to us all. This whole new 3-arc trope was just amazing, and it did the show a lot of good. The problem that some other shows suffer, including previous seasons of this one as well, was no longer an issue. There was definitely no need to stretch the events or attempt to use a lot of filler episodes there. Instead, the show presented us with the Ghost Rider arc and gave us a proto-molecule man within the character of Eli Morrow, and let most of us guess who the villain that he is happens to be in the comics. The show then presented us with the LMD arc, where Mallory Jansen and John Hannah just shined as the villains. And finally, when we thought it had nothing more to pull, it brought Lord and Hydra back. But it did not stop at that. Within the framework, it presented us with different characters to each person who was shoved in there, along with one major Hydra villain we did not expect to see there. Ada was Madam Hydra. The finale as well was just amazing, with the return of the Ghost Rider, the Doctor Strange Easter eggs, and the amazing cliffhanger. But that brings us to number 1 on my list. The 5th season of Arrow was the best, and not because of any kind of favoritism or preference, but rather because of 3 simple reasons: Adrian Chase, Helix, and the finale. We all know that Arrow had massive turbulence down the road represented in its 3rd and 4th seasons. Specifically, the 4th season was pretty bad. I did not expect they would make such a good comeback. Then they did it. They introduced this mysterious villain who kept giving them a run for their money, and unlike previous seasons, we did not get to watch one person close to Oliver die, but we were rather left with the fate of his entire team and the mother of his child, along with others in the balance. But besides the finale being great as a whole, it also managed to give us one of the best possible cliffhangers on its first attempt to leave us with one. The acting by Josh Segarra and the role of Adrian Chase was pretty good, and even though some did expect he might be Prometheus, we kept getting thrown off into believing he was his comic book persona, Vigilante. That was all possibly due to good writing for the character and great acting on his end. Now even the flashbacks with Konstantin Kovar were pretty well done and provided for good storytelling. We all know the show had major storytelling issues when it came to the flashbacks of the 4th season, but the way the past met with the present as Oliver concluded his 5 years in hell journey was amazing as well. So all in all, Arrow managed to deliver on its promise, going back to the 1st season roots, presenting us with good writing, compelling storytelling, and the return of many of our favorite characters including Merlin, Slade, and Nyssa. Hopefully the show will manage to present us with a similarly good season 6. But with that being said, let me know in the comments how you'd rank all these comic book shows that aired seasons this year. Let me know as well if there are any specific videos related to all these shows that you want to see on my channel. And until I see you next, thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.